Programme Manager for Adult Social Care Workforce at the Greater Manchester Health and Social Care Partnership. I'll just hand over to Sue to introduce herself first.
Thanks, Jo. Hello, everybody. My name's Sue Wright, and I'm the GM Employability Project Manager for the Step Into Care Recruitment Programme. Thanks, Jo.
No problem. Can you move on to the next slide, Sue?
She says.
I'll cover this anyway. Oh, there we go. It's a bit of a delay, I think, on the slides.
Yeah.
So just some really quick housekeeping stuff. We're saying keep the cameras on where possible, particularly, I think, obviously, while the slides are up, you can't generally see each other, but certainly at the end when we get some questions, it'd be great to be able to see people. While we're doing the slides, I suppose, and if you're not speaking, if you can keep your microphone on mute just to avoid any feedback. We will save the questions to the end because we've got quite a lot to get through, but please use the chat function to share any thoughts, feedback throughout the session. And if you want us to get back regarding anything, leave your contact details and we can get back to you afterwards. And the session is being recorded so that it will be available for people to refer back to that couldn't make the session. Can you move on? Thank you. Okay, so briefly, just to go through, I suppose, some of in terms of the scene setting and why we set the programme up. So starting really with the challenges in social care. I'm not sure where everybody's from, and we haven't done intros purposely just to, again, not take time up, but do introduce yourselves if you talk in the chat box. But in terms of some of those challenges in social care, we've got a high turnover of staff, particularly in care worker sort of vacant roles, high levels of vacancies, an older workforce, and which in itself brings succession challenges at all levels really of the workforce. And the profile of the workforce predominantly female, and as I say, a kind of older age profile. There's been a real push to recruit according to values rather than experience or already having specific skills around certain tasks, and a real push as well for growing our own workforce and creating better career pathways for people across health and social care. And then in the context of the wider population, obviously we have an ageing population who are living longer with more complex and multiple conditions, so the demand for social care is only going to increase, which is obviously set against a backdrop of staff shortages that we've already got. And we want to bring people in with new people in with new ideas. So all of that really led us to start to look at what a sector-based work academy for social care might look like to attract people into careers in social care and give them the development and support to do so. Could you move on to the next one? So. Thank you. So the first thing that happened, there was a pilot programme that Sue developed in January of this year. That was led by Sue at the Careers Hub and funded through Health Education England's Step Into Work funding. It was a sector-based work academy in partnership with Salford College, co-designed with leads from across social care, so registered managers, business owners. So quite a few care home providers were involved in the design of that. It was a GM-wide programme. The education programme was based at Media City, so there was ease of access for people from across Greater Manchester. And it consisted of a 4-week college-based course, a week of workshops with employers, and then a 4-week placement with a view to interview into a vacancy. And then COVID struck, so everything had to change. So can you move on, Sue, to the next slide? So COVID wasn't the main reason we put the Step Into Care programme, but I suppose it meant we had to put it in place quite differently to what we'd originally intended. So we'd already started to have discussions with WEA, who are an adult education provider, about creating a programme that had maybe a better and a bigger community presence. So it wasn't about being based in sort of academic institutions. It was very much about getting out there into the community. So we'd already started those conversations. Obviously, that wasn't going to happen in terms of face-to-face. Many programmes we were aware had been put on hold, whether that's pre-employment programmes or broader programmes of social care. Lots had been put on hold, but we felt that there was still an opportunity to pursue this with a bit of a rethink around the delivery of the education programme that made sure that those who wanted a career in social care could continue to pursue it, but also it would help employers to fill some much needed gaps at that time. We were also aware of people who'd been furloughed or made redundant from other sectors who would be looking for work, but that would have those right values and the transfer skills to move across to a career in social care if that's what they wanted. Could you move on, Sue? Thank you. But we obviously needed to know what employers needed and what would be of support to them, particularly while they were going through the crisis they were going through. And this was obviously being put into place right at the beginning. So this was April time, sort of March, April, in fact, when we were starting the kind of redesign of the programme. So at that point, care home managers obviously were going through massive crisis in terms of the hard work, the emotional toll of the pandemic, as well as the practical sort of issues that brought with it. So what we needed to build was something that, I guess, balanced, providing them with the additional sort of capable people with enough training and the right values to come in and support them, but without creating additional pressures for them in the process of doing that. So it was about finding a balance really between those two things. So Sue met with a number of providers, social care provider employers, to ask the questions, and really that slide that's up there now summarises, what came of those conversations. So we knew there were staff shortages across care homes and in supported living. It wasn't just care vacancies, so it was also about filling other support roles such as catering roles, laundry, admin. There were lots of different roles. It had to be values based in order to get the right people, and Sue, well, she'll talk about it more shortly, but could help out there with and undertake the initial interviews and do that matching, make sure that employers got the right people from the programme. Training and recruitment support would absolutely save time for employers at a point when they needed it. So things like the DBS checks, we were, as I mentioned, working with WEA, and they were able to get the funding to undertake the DBS check, and that was all in place before people moved across to employers. So that saved a lot of time for employers. And they were also keen on a shorter placement, meaning that people are in post quicker, which obviously has benefits both ways. So benefits for the employer, getting somebody in quicker to support them, but also the individuals earning a wage much quicker. Could you move on, Sue, to the next one? This probably just covers really what I went through before, so it elaborates the point really. It was stressing the importance of the balance between speed and getting people in, but ensuring there was sufficient training so that participants were confident when they arrived in the workplace. And obviously, like I say, faster recruitment meant people are in earning a living, and training continued once they're in post, and there's certainly continued support and employers' own induction programmes that supported that process. Okay, so a little bit about who was involved. I suppose we've not talked about that yet. So I guess, so who are the partners, I suppose, in Step Into Care? So the following, all those listed at the top there, were involved in the design of the programme, as I said, at speed, really. I can't remember the exact timescale from kind of the first idea of it to getting the first programme up and running. It felt like about 3 or 4 weeks. I don't know, it might have been longer than that, but it was really, I'm sure Sue remembers, but it was really, really quick. And what I would say, all the way through that design, as I mentioned before, providers were engaged throughout that, and continue to be as we develop it, as it runs. So the Health and Social Care Careers Hub, so Sue, who'll talk shortly, has been very much involved around all aspects of the programme, but particularly focusing around sourcing placements, which are actual vacancies with employers. that liaison with employers to give confidence throughout the system, I suppose, in the programme, and interviewing and matching applicants. WEA, who are a voluntary sector adult learning provider, they deliver the education programme, and that's through an online platform, so it's a distance learning programme. DWP, who source applicants through their job centres, and we're very much linked in with the job coaches through DWP. Plus, there's applicants, social media, and other promotion. Skills for Care, who provide their expertise and have done throughout, links to providers through their groups and through the Greater Manchester Independent Care Sector Network. And the programmes, it's fully funded and aimed at people, as I said before, currently out of work who want to pursue a career in social care, and lots of different roles available. A few of them are mentioned there, so it's not just care assistant roles. Can you move on, Sue? Okay. As I mentioned a bit earlier, the programme at present includes care homes and supported living, so it's supporting the support older people with learning disability and or autism. But we're now working in other areas. So currently conversations have started with locality brokerage organisations to see how we can extend the programme to recruit people into social care personal assistant roles, so that's people who support people who receive care and support through direct payments. So a piece of work started to engage and include those. And Sue will again talk about this shortly, but we've also expanded into home care, and Sue's working with Wigan on the current programme 6, to recruit people to work with home care providers under Wigan's ethical framework. So as I say, Sue will give us a bit more info shortly about that. So I will now hand over to Sue, who will talk a bit more about the programme itself and what's involved in it.
Thanks, Jo. Okay, so to give you more details about the programme itself, the eligibility for the programme means that applicants need to be 19 plus, and that's to enable our training provider WEA to draw the funding down for the training that's delivered. They also need to be actively seeking work in adult social care, resident in the UK for 6 months, and eligible for work in the UK. So what does the programme involve then? So our learners enrol onto a 6-week education programme, as Jo mentioned, and they do this via an online distance learning with WEA. During that time, they cover the knowledge elements of the care certificate, an accredited level 1 in mental health awareness, and an accredited level 1 in stress awareness too. They also cover quite a large amount of employability skills as part of the programme. So the outcomes and the scheme of work conform to the mapping standards that are provided by Skills for Care, so that each learner can build a portfolio towards their future qualifications. And what we do once an applicant goes through to placement and is successful into employment, we provide a training summary so that employers can map the elements of the care certificate into the rest of the care certificate once that's completed as part of the mandatory induction. So initial assessments are completed to assess suitability initially before applicants are enrolled onto the programme, and they're given a full understanding of the course and what's involved. Now, if an applicant feels they're not quite ready for the programme, there is support available for all learners that aren't quite work ready, and WEA support us with that. As Jo mentioned, we do DBS checks, and they are funded by WEA, but at present we're using the COVID-19 DBS. As a lot of you will probably know, that the COVID-19 DBSs are coming through very quickly, which means that by the time our learners go out onto placement 6 weeks after they've done the training programme, the DBS is usually in place along with the adult first check. If it isn't, then CQC have sort of advised that it's okay for people to go out with the adult first check in place as long as they're risk assessed and shadowed throughout the placement, along with the DBS if that's in place as well. So as I mentioned, the DBS would be funded once the COVID-19 option ends, but hopefully the COVID-19 will continue for some time because it is really quick at the moment. So delivery of training then. So this is all done via Zoom sessions. There's videos and presentations, there's a breakout discussion group and assessment activities. There's access to a Canvas learning platform that WEA have in place, links and resources for our learners to use. It's really engaging, really interactive. And there's over 40 hours of guided learning, along with an additional 10 hours to include tutorial time of one-to-one support for our learners with the tutors. We've had really good feedback in regards to the programme, and our learners thoroughly enjoy the whole experience, because it is quite different to the usual format of a pre-employment programme. What we do whilst our learners are on the programme, on the 6-week programme, we ask them to complete a values-based application form, and that's to be considered for a social care placement. All our placements have a current vacancy, so I work closely with providers across GM to gain information about their vacancies, about their organisation, about their values, so that when I'm interviewing each of our applicants, we can then match them to providers that have vacancies. All our interviews are Zoomed, and they're very much values-based. I go into detail with them about the area of work they're aspiring to work in, what hours they're available to do, their form of transport and where they can travel to and from in regards to where they live in GM. And our providers across GM are offering either a fixed term contract or a permanent contract dependent on their current needs. So the placement, once this takes place, is 24 hours in total. So like Joe mentioned earlier, feedback from providers said that they would prefer the placement to be a little bit shorter so that they can get people up and running into the permanent positions as soon as possible once they've been able to assess that they're suitable for the vacancy. So they're 24 hours in total. This could be 2 12-hour shifts or 4 8-hour shifts. What I say to employers is try to make the shifts around about the same length that they would be if they were in employment in a role. And what that enables the learner to do is experience the social care environment. It enables a recruiting manager to assess suitability. And of course, the ultimate goal is to recruit vacancies within the local community. So we're currently partnership working, and our potential applicants are referred from a number of different places. So we send a weekly vacancy update over to JCP, to our lead at JCP, and they're then cascaded out to the areas where the vacancies are in order to gain referrals from those areas. So we target those areas to try and get as many referrals as possible where the vacancies are. We have regular team meetings with job coaches and employer advisors across GM, and they're really on board with the programme and massively supportive of it. Our employer advisors have introduced me to many social care providers who have vacancies, and job coaches are actively sending over referrals and really good people onto the programme. We also get referrals via Dual, voluntary service, carer groups, the Growth Company, and GM housing associations are also involved sending over referrals. We have online promotion of the programme. LinkedIn's a really good way for me to sort of get in touch with social care providers and make good contacts. And we also have a virtual open day that's now in place. So every 6 weeks, when just 2 weeks before the programme's about to start, we have a virtual open day. We invite all our referrals, all our people onto the open day. They find out all about the programme and what's involved, what they need to commit to come onto the programme. And then we have a 2-week enrolment window that enables anyone that's interested to apply and then enrol onto the programme. So vacancies in home care, like Joe mentioned, we are currently trialling vacancies in home care. We're piloting this because it's much needed, especially now in the current situation where we want to keep as many of our elderly community in their own homes. And there's so many opportunities and vacancies involved in home care. We're continuously asked about supporting home care providers. And as you know, traditional home care arrangements require people usually to use cars to travel across large areas, visit a number of clients throughout the day. And this proves to be challenging in terms of recruiting new entrants into social care, because a lot of our applicants, especially, who aren't currently working, either can't drive or aren't able to afford a car right now. So we're working with the Wigan Ethical Framework, and they've shown us a really effective way of delivering home care. So I work very closely with 2 ladies, Kathy and Carol at Wigan JCP. They're really on board with Wigan Council in regards to the ethical framework. So within the ethical framework for home care, there are 10 providers and they all work closely together. They've got standards to meet in regards to the ethical framework, and they have set areas. So as you can see on the map there, each provider has their own set area where they work, which makes the areas more compact and not as spread out. It's a really positive workforce and way of working. They share the training days together, and they also have walking rounds. So it's a case of watch this space, guys. We are trialling it with our current programme, and we have got some applicants from the Wigan area that we are going to consider for home care vacancies. And if we can pilot this and show that it works, maybe walking rounds could be the way forward for a lot more providers. Okay, I'll pass over to Joe now. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Sue. So obviously quite a significant programme, I guess, developed across a fairly short time frame, much shorter than I guess we would ordinarily take to get something up and running like that. So we wanted to include, I guess, what the challenges were with that, because they were significant. But then I'll go on to talk, and Sue will give some real examples of what some of the successes were of the programme, or are of the programme. So in terms of challenges, I guess provider time was a real challenge, understandably. They were under immense pressure while we were developing and rolling this out. So it was a matter of really trying to keep as much balancing, I guess, engaging with keeping as much away from them in terms of what might be onerous for them to do. So we really did have to be acutely aware of the pressures on them and their availability to engage and sort of support the development of the programme. And it impacted on things like where we'd normally probably have gone out to register, physically gone out to registered manager, engagement meetings, met with the Independent Care Sector Network, things like that we would normally have done. Obviously couldn't be done at the time we were first developing it. There were and continue to be a number of early leavers from the programme, so particularly around the education programme, and the number that actually then move across, if you like, into placements. But then there are some that start their placement and kind of leave the programme, which is challenging, but again, better that people deselect themselves if it's not for them. And that was very much again about at the beginning of the learning from that. I think it has included being a lot clearer about the nature of the job, what the demands of the job are, what the working hours are likely to be, so that when DWP and WEA have those initial conversations with people that are potentially interested in participating, they've got all the information they need to be able to work out if it is going to be for them. So whilst it can be frustrating when people leave, if it's for the right reasons and people realise it's not going to be for them, then obviously that's a good thing in terms of the providers at the end of that. The online training was a challenge. So, I mean, WEA would obviously be able to speak far more eloquently about the challenges of that, but it was something that was developed from scratch very quickly. So, massive thanks to WEA for getting that up and running. And I think generally, because we wanted to get it up and running as soon as possible, we've had to keep evaluating and tweaking as we've gone along, which has its inherent challenges, doesn't it? Trying to keep something running, while you're learning from it and then continuing to develop it. Within adult social care, we're working with multiple separate employees who've all got their own recruitment protocols and different ways of working. So we've again had to be mindful all the way through that whatever we develop needs to complement what they do and not get in the way of it. So there isn't a one size fits all. So it's making sure we created something that's got enough flex in it to be able to fit with employers' different ways of working, I guess, and different safe employment protocols. Practical issues around lockdown, so getting people to places was an issue around public transport. So we had some really practical things to sort of deal with early on, particularly. And then I'm sure Sue would certainly agree with this last one, which is around syncing the vacancies to the applicants, because there's a time lag in terms of sourcing the vacancy where that would be suitable, if you like, or that somebody could have that opportunity at the end of the programme. You've got this period of time where they're actually on the education programme and undergoing the interviews and the placements. So there's a time lag. So it's making sure that we're recruiting from the right geographical areas, but we're not leaving employers with vacancies that aren't filled. So that's an ongoing challenge. I know, like I say, that Sue would certainly, I know, agree with in terms of one of the key challenges, I think, of the programme. Can you move on to the next slide? No, thank you. But there's loads and loads of positives. So we've had some brilliant feedback from employers, and Sue will give some examples of that shortly. Employers who've been involved in it and feel that it's been of a real support to them at a difficult time. The online platform and groups have worked really well. Some of the feedback from participants, from students on the programme, is that they've been really engaged and able to build sort of relationships with others on the programme as they would have done in a face-to-face setting. And obviously having an online platform means we've not had to source venues, which meant we could get it up and running a lot more quickly than we would have done had we been looking for venues for it. And again, all of it really has meant a much quicker turnaround, I think, into employment. So as I said right at the beginning, employers are getting somebody in post much more quickly than they might have done. and individuals are getting, earning money much quicker than they might have done through more sort of traditional programs. If you move on to the next slide, so. And that's some of those of you that like figures and numbers, that's some of the figures today. What we have said we will do, we will get the figures, more detailed figures, I suppose, and when Anisha mentioned about sharing the slides, we'll include those figures when we circulate it, if anybody wants more information on that. But the conversion rate, if you like, in terms of positive employment offers from those finishing the education programme and moving on to placement is 87.5%, which is really good. It isn't on the slides, but one of the things I think worth noting is that what we do know in adult social care is that turnover is particularly high in the first year of employment, and even more so at the beginning. So it's almost like the longer someone stays, the longer they are kind of likely to stay. So early turnover is really high. I know Sue did an evaluation of the first cohort that took place, so that would have been about May, I think. And 78% are still in post, which from a social care turnover perspective is really good. And obviously, as the programme develops, we'll continue to look at that, because the longer it goes on, the better that information will be. So currently we've got 9 placements in place across GM and 30 enrolled onto programme 6, which starts this week. So that sort of gives you an idea of numbers that we're able to put through the programme at the moment. So I shall hand back to Sue, who will share some of the feedback that we've had from learners and employers.
Thanks, Jo. So yeah, we're really proud of our outcomes today, and I think it's all about, feedback from learners and feedback from employers that makes us even prouder. So with regards to feedback from learners, there's just a couple of examples there, and I think it's really important to see there that someone's actually said they've come off benefits and got back into work. And I think with the current climate, it's really important for this programme to support as many people across GM as it possibly can with getting back into work. And as Jo mentioned, with transferable skills and also experience today that people have got in other areas, it's really good to think about care as a career. It's also enabled people to sort of change their mind about roles that they were currently in. We've had a number of different learners coming through our programme that have possibly gone to university and done what this young lady there that's mentioned on the feedback did a degree in engineering. We have another one that did one in arts and media, and they decided that it wasn't for them. It wasn't enough for them, and they've come over to us onto the programme, and now they're working in care, which is fantastic. And then the last comment there about being able to see a bright future. I think again, during this current situation that we've got with the COVID pandemic, a bright future for all would be a fantastic outcome, wouldn't it, from a programme such as this. This young lady here is Emily, and she's from Oldham. Emily joined our programme. She was on programme 4. She was a single parent, and she's really aspiring to be a paramedic. It's something she's always wanted to do. However, family life and everything else that gets in the way of your career has meant that she's not been able to sort of go off and head herself towards that career as a paramedic. She had no self-belief when she started on the programme, and she openly admitted that. We've had some fantastic feedback about Emily. She went out to Possibilities. She did a placement in one of their services there, and now she's been recruited, and the feedback is amazing what Emily's doing. And Emily may decide to stay with Possibilities. They've got some really good progression routes for the staff over at that organisation, or she may decide in the future with the experience she gets from care to pursue a career in as a paramedic. But I wish Emily lots of luck with that. And we've also got Wayne. Wayne's from Salford, and he was a tram driver, and due to the COVID pandemic, he was made redundant. And Wayne's first words to me were, I'm too old to get a job. I've tried and I just can't get one, and I'm sure it's my age. But Wayne was wrong, because he came onto the programme. He was on programme 3, and we supported Wayne into a full-time support worker role with Aspire. He's been fantastic on the programme. He loved every minute of it, and he's proven to be a fantastic colleague over there at Aspire as well. So 2 fantastic colleagues there that hopefully will continue with their career in social care. We've had some really good feedback from our employers. This is just one particular feedback from Kelly Maria, who's the HR business partner at Possibilities. I've sent a number of applicants over to Possibilities, and we've had some really good outcomes. They're a great provider. They offer a really supportive placement, as do all our providers, which means it helps towards a good outcome. And like I said, it's great to work with all our providers across GM and support them during this really difficult time. Along with the feedback from Kelly Maria, we've also had feedback from a number of other providers. And it's just really to say that, you know, that they like working closely with us as we know exactly what they need. And I think that's really important, especially with it being a values-based programme, because I do look deeply into organisations, what their values are, you know, the sort of people they're aspiring to bring into the team. And then I try to match them as closely as I can. It also helped with time constraints there, as someone said, because we do the interviewing, we do the screening, we do the, you know, some of the recruitment checks. They're all done before the programmes, before the placement starts, which definitely gives the employer then a head start when they go on to the onboarding process for successful applicants. It's a recruitment tool for employers. It's an added recruitment tool for employers. There's no cost to employers at this stage, and it's just a case of using us as well as their usual recruitment process. And if I can be of help to any social care providers in Greater Manchester, I'll do my utmost to support them with the current challenges that they've got. And that's everything in regards to the programme that we wanted to talk about today. I think it'd be really good if you wanted to give us some of your thoughts and feedback in the chat box. We'd really be appreciative of that. And if you're interested in working with us, like Joe mentioned right at the very beginning, just leave your contact details in the chat function and we'll be sure to get back to you. It's been lovely to have you here today. And I think now if I just close down the presentation, Joe, and we ask if anybody's got any questions, you can raise your virtual hand for us. Just bear with me while I take my screen down. Okay, Joe, do you want to carry on, Joe? Because I can't. Oh, I'm here. There we are. I can see everybody now. I couldn't see anybody throughout the whole of that.
I still can't see everybody. I can still see your slide, but anyway, I'll manage. I think mine's just lagging. I know a couple of people have put in the chat box there, but they've had to go. So is there anybody that wants to ask us anything about it? Like we say, we will send some more information out. But Ben's got his hand up.
Yeah, can you hear me all right, Joanne?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just a question as to have you managed to pinpoint at what point young people who did, it looks like you got some amazing results in terms of the retention for people still in post. I feel like those figures from May are amazing, but for those who did drop out, have you managed to pinpoint the part on the journey where they just went, not for me? And
well, from our programs, Ben, I think the part where people drop out is when they get to placement and they decide care isn't for them. There's been a few of our learners that have gone through, thought it was for them, and even though they've got the values, the caring values, it might be the personal care side of things that isn't for them, and that's been the main reason. In regards to before the placement starts, sometimes it's because people just can't commit to the training, or they decide while they're doing the training that it isn't for them. But usually it's because when they get to placement, they decide that care isn't for them. If that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Thanks. Yeah, I just wonder, were there any barriers with tech at all with getting learners and participants online?
Well, what WEA actually provide laptops for those that don't have a device. So it is a bit difficult to do work on your phone, even though you can do Zoom on your phone. So WEA do loan laptops, but that has caused some difficulties in regards to people not returning the laptops. As you can imagine, once somebody's done the program, it's getting that laptop back. But nevertheless, we do still offer that. WEA also have workbooks. So it means that if somebody isn't tech savvy, they can go on the Zoom, do the Zoom sessions, but then they could possibly use a workbook to submit to do all the work that's needed, and then that can be submitted to WEA so that they can check it all over and make sure it's all complete.
Cool. Thanks, Sue.
All right, Ben.
I think just to add to that, Ben, I think I mentioned before, it's been about kind of shaping it as we've gone along. So where we've identified that maybe people would have benefited from clearer information earlier on, that's been added in. I know, Sue, one of the issues was around working hours, and you've certainly had conversations with employers about how they can be, as flexible as possible around that. And, that in itself has proved a bit of a challenge. But what we are going to do in January is sort of take a bit of a pause, evaluate the programmes up to that point, which will be the 6 programmes, and do a bit of a deeper kind of analysis around where some of those areas are. So what I'd hope is that might kind of flush out any issues that we've maybe missed as we've gone along, that we can then address for programme 7 as that's set up. Okay, I can't see any other hands up, so I'm not missing anybody, am I? Because my screen's still a bit weird.
No, I can't see any hands. If anybody wants to give a little bit of feedback in the chat box, we'd really appreciate your thoughts on the programme. That would really help us, especially with the review that we're going to do early in the new year. That would be great, definitely. Yeah.
Okay. So if there are, oh, Ben's typing, so I'll let you type then. But if there's no other questions, obviously we'll leave you to get on with the rest of your day. But thanks ever so much for joining the session. And as Anisha said, the recording will be made available, so that I'm sure there are a number of people who've not been able to join that had hoped to, but the slides will be made available as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jo. Yeah, thanks everybody for joining us today. And if you do want more information, please feel free to get in touch, because we'll be more than happy to support you and catch up with you when we can. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thanks everybody.
Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.